Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. This is Roger Gilbert. I'm sitting in the video studio of Rongo Live, and I have the pleasure today of interviewing Stefan Scheiber from Bühler.
Thank you very much, Roger.
I would like to start by asking, there is a strong drive by Bühler to help the food industry develop alternative protein foodstuffs. We heard about that in the conference earlier today, and you mentioned that there was a slight drawback from alternatives to meat in 2023. I'm wondering, what do you believe the future is for a meat replacement coming out of the milling sector?
Thank you for the question. My comment focused on the investments into processing technologies, where a couple of years before we had seen really a hype of investments into processing technologies. In the meantime, I believe the industry resets its focus a bit more towards clean label products, even more sustainable products, new recipes based on raw materials, which we can actually track through the whole value chain. I do believe that consumers in Europe, in the Americas, and more increasingly also in Asia, have accepted many of the new products which came onto the market. Now the industry is refocusing a little bit on the raw material side, and as this is progressing, I believe the industry will come back with higher investments over the next couple of years, because the aspect of sustainability remains a very, very hot aspect for the players in the industry as well as for consumers.
Yeah. And I'm thinking the milling industry's role. Is there a role for the milling sector that either is producing or processing wheat or rice or other cereals, also producing animal feeds? Is there a role for us, for this industry, the milling industry, to participate fully in these alternative protein products?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's the grain processing sector, but of course also increasingly topics like lentils, peas, chickpeas, beans, etc. Are coming to play even more. So I believe the whole industry will benefit from that. And yes, the industry has to play a pivotal role as far as this is concerned to shape the industry and to develop it further. I believe there is ample potential for the whole industry going forward.
Yeah, and a lot of that development will be based on technologies. And I think in the last 30 years, Bühler has shown itself to be a leader in the technology that the milling industry is adopting. Do you see that trend continuing into smart milling or smart manufacturing? Or have we reached a plateau where we need to pause a little bit and adopt or integrate these technologies into our businesses?
I believe that at any point in time, we look back and actually tell us, well, most probably that's it now, right? We have achieved the level of industrialization, digitalization, automatization, the state-of-the-art modernization. And yet, when we look at the milling industry over the past decades, 100 years and ongoing, there is always innovation. Sometimes on the mechanical side, then again more on the, let's say, digital side, the softwares, the programs, the connectedness of the plants, the ability to sort of generate data from the production sites and then optimize out of data analytics the processes inside the plants. So I believe that there is ample opportunity also in the future. Bühler at any point in time has been and will be continuing to invest into these new technologies, because I believe there will be never an end. And the future is so that the population on this planet is growing. The need for good food, for calories, for healthy food is continuing to grow. And hence I believe the industry has a very good future.
Yeah. And I think you've alluded to quite subtly there that technology is helping with a skill base that we haven't had in the past, that our skills that are needed to run the modern mill is changing, and particularly with reference to a more rural environment where maybe there's a lack of traditional workers or workforce that we might have appreciated in the past. Do you see training is particularly important to the milling industry at this time?
Yes, absolutely. I think a couple of roles are playing into this interesting question you are asking me. Number one, training has been and will remain to be super important. That's why Bühler also continues to invest internally, but also for our customers into the profession of the milling industry. We collaborate with universities, schools across the world. We operate own schools across the globe. And I think this collaboration and this investment is absolutely essential because we need to keep the profession of the food processor, the miller, high in the appreciation of societies, because it's very, very important also in future. I believe also exchange of people and information across markets is very important. Then the last point I want to mention is that, of course, also at the same time, the plant control system remain important and gain importance, such that perhaps we can make the work of an operator in the plant more interesting, more effective, such as he focuses on the key aspects and is not be driven by surprises or by too many operational hectical issues which he has to take care of. So I believe there is a lot of positive development as far as this is concerned. However, I have to reiterate that indeed the topic of access to skills, but then also retention of skills, and then also continuous training and education remains key wherever I go in nearly all markets.
Yeah, well, we can see this definitely in Bühler. You have a younger workforce coming through. It's really impressive the number of young people that Bühler is engaging with and the type of work they're doing. And do you think that by doing this, by the industry focusing more on young people coming in, that we will go some way to addressing the impact, the legitimate impact that milling has on the environment? I mean, food is obviously ultimately important. We can't have, but definitely we are trying for a safe environment, but also we need to feed that population you're talking about. And do you think engaging through young people might get those messages across, what you're doing as a company and what we're doing as an industry?
I believe the industry is contributing massively to that, and what the millers are doing across the world is really remarkable as far as this is concerned. The answer is absolutely yes. I believe it's very important that we see this role, that we continue playing this role of educating and addressing sustainability issues as well, that people continue to understand how good bread and good food is being produced and what it all needs to produce good food on a sustainable basis for a population of 8 billion people on the planet. And with all predictions the scientists give us, we believe we are going to see a growth of the population towards 9 or even 10 billion people by the year of 2050. So we see the unbelievably important function of grain processing also in future and how important that is. And at the same time, with climate change, with perhaps less arable land available, with water issues here and there, with changing wheat belts across the globe, we need to address the topic of sustainability, and we can with education, with responsible entrepreneurship, but then also with new technologies. And I believe the combination of all these efforts will solve and will contribute to the challenges we see ahead. We also see that the consumers are playing a more important role. They demand more information about, what is in that food, what's the CO2 footprint of this and that. And I think if we see this not only as a threat, but embrace it and see us also as a opportunity to show the whole society what we are doing in our industry together, then we are going to make a leapfrog and develop really well also in future. Because again, population is growing, people need more food, and this is the role we are playing. So it's a very noble role and very important role.
Yeah. Well, it sounds to me, and I see it elsewhere as well, millers are stepping up. They're stepping up to the plate, as you would say in America. But one of the queries I have, or questions I have, do you think millers have a clear picture of the direction they should be going in as a group? Or do you think there's a bit of confusion out there about the difference between sustainability, environmental impact, CO2, your scope 1, 2 and 3? Do you think they fully recognise now the task in front of them and the focus?
Well, of course, there are many questions, and I understand that. Sometimes people are indeed confused, but I think it's important that we share learnings and that, again, we focus on science and technology, that we create awareness of the problem, that we train people, that we always start by creating transparency. And this is also a service which Bühler has developed over time. We have a team which consults millers across the world about, for instance, what is the current CO2 footprint, what are the drivers of the CO2 footprint within their processes, and how can we best tackle them. What is the role of the supply chain in that whole ecosystem? What can we influence through better technologies and better recipes, or also more better control systems? And I think the combination of that will help leading towards more, let's say, awareness, but also ability to control these processes better and solve the questions which many of the millers still have, and potentially also solve the uncertainties which we have.
And 3 or 4 years ago, I mean before COVID, at one of the Bühler Open Days, you talked about the milling industry taking an assessment of its CO2 or its carbon footprint. Are we much further along the line now? Have we made a difference in the past 4 or 5 years?
Well, absolutely. Transparency across the world in terms of the processing technology, or the role the industry is playing, has absolutely increased. The awareness has increased. I think we more are embracing as an industry the topic rather than pushing it away. And we also, through that increased awareness and transparency, we see the very strong role which we can play in terms of a positive contribution. Because when we are able to explain to our stakeholders in our markets what we are doing and which role we are playing, then we can actually build trust in our value chain, and that's exactly what we need. We need trust in our value chain, and at the end that has to reach consumers such that they believe that our industry is not part of the problem, but actually is part of the solution.
And do you see around this question that the developments we're making to reduce CO2 is a cost that gets passed on, or are we trying to do that within the affordability of the products that we make?
Yes, that's a very good question. First of all, I do believe that cost does play a role. It's important to address this and not neglect this. I think sometimes it's important that you have to see it like an investment into the future, that you make your assets more modern, you improve the yields out of the raw material, produce more and a good end product quality, and through this actually address also sustainability issues, because it's not a big surprise that a lot of the CO2 footprints of a miller sits in the raw material and not necessarily in their assets. So the best making use of the raw material is the essence of also becoming more sustainable. And here I do see that this know-how actually develops, and that is also a driver for new business. And so I'm very positive about these aspects, increasingly positive, I have to say.
Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, but finally I'd like to ask you for one last comment, and that's around where you see the future. Do you believe that we can realistically feed a population of 10 billion people, given that we struggle now in parts of Africa and parts of Asia meeting basic nutritional needs? Do you think the milling industry has the capacity to do this?
Well, first of all, this is a very, very challenging question. So I want to be very humble and be very mindful that I not necessarily have the capabilities to answer that to the degree the question actually requires it. But clearly, Roger, when we look into the developments of the markets, as we see, then there are a lot of challenges. When we look at the population growth in, for instance, Africa, or also in other places, or for instance, Asia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, then there are a lot of challenges as far as this availability of food is concerned. We also know that availability to food, for instance, for children is so vital for their development in childhood, such that their cognitive capabilities are growing in such a way that they can learn. And again, learning and education is key for the development of the people in these parts of the world as well. So we need to find solutions for these challenges. Will it be easy? No. Can, however, technology and collaboration contribute to solving this question? Absolutely yes. And as Noam Chomsky said, in the past, optimism is a relatively good recipe for future success. And I want to remain, in the face of all the challenges, I want to remain an optimist. Is it going to be easy? No. Do we have to believe that we can solve the problem? Absolutely yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm very pleased to hear that answer. And as humble as you might say you are, Stefan, you are leading one of the world's most advanced companies in the creation of the food processing system that we have. And I think you are rightful to be mindful of the statements that you make. But I also think that you're a leader in our industry, and I think that there's more to come from yourself and Bühler, and we look forward to that in the future. And thank you very, very much for joining us today in the Rongo Video Live studio. Good luck in the future, and look forward to seeing you at one of the events shortly.
Thank you very much, Roger. Thank you for having me. All the very best to you as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.